Dr. Mohan Krishna, very distinguished and respected invitees, ladies and gentlemen. I'm afraid you have invited the wrong person for a financial function. I am an impecunious judge. After my retirement, I have not sold an opinion, I have not done an arbitration, I have not received a pie from a litigant or a potential litigant, including the government for which I worked 7 years after retirement on ₹1 salary. So I think for a forward-looking financial enterprise, I think I am least qualified to speak on financial matters. I can speak on the absence of finance. But I tell you something. I became a judge in the 70s of last century. My 5 years of salary, my initial salary as a judge for 5 years is my pension today. See, my pension is equivalent to my 5 years of my initial salary. This is the kind of madness government has. I'm wasting money on retired people. I'm 90 years. I have received for a longer term pension than what I received as salary. I worked as a judge for 22 years, and now 25 years they have paid me a pension. I think it's a mad government, and this is how a fool and money are soon parted, is what they say. A fool and money are soon parted. Ladies and gentlemen, this is something which is a very auspicious thing. The world's the global GDP is about 75 trillion, 75,000 billion. America has almost 30% of it. It's 28 billion. Out of 75, they have 28 billion. There are about 300 million people, 4.5 times the size of our country. And we, at 1,300 million people, our GDP is about 2.5 trillion. In 1750, in the year 1750, between India and China, their share of global manufacturing output was 60%. China was 32%, India was 27%. And the whole of Europe put together was 7%. America was 1%. In 1750, America's share of the global manufacturing output, they call it the GDP, was just 1%. The whole of Europe was 7%. China was 32, India was 27. In just 100 years, India became 1% and China became 1%. And this is the way in which things are happening in the international financial scenario. There are some lessons for us. In fact, 68% of our population work in agriculture. 68% of the working force is in agriculture. We had only 14% of the GDP. And in the world, we had, in 1800, we had just 1 billion population. In 1800. It took 132 years to add the second billion. The 6th billion was added in 11 years. And these are some of the things which we must understand when you think of what the broader economic picture which our financial systems are a part, just a part. The part can't be larger than the whole. And interestingly, there's in 1929, when the bubble burst in America, the meltdown occurred. Subprime was in 97. Subprime lending was in 97. It was in 1929, the Great Meltdown, Great Depression. You know what happened? Dow Jones, that's equivalent to our index, Sensex. Dow Jones was 471. Next day it came to 41. That is a very interesting thing. And 2 million people struck the road as trams. And a tycoon was the chairman of, he was a director of 57 companies and chairman of several companies, was washing cars in the car parking area to make a living. And a writer wrote a story about how a very intelligent man who lost all his money went about earning a meal. He had a soup stone. There's a story called the soup stone. He had some piece of stone which he said will add flavor to your soup, and go to houses and say, well, he did nothing, but it's a dignified way of cheating to help himself with a bowl of soup. He would put that stone into he would put all beautiful ingredients into it, and then take out the stone and put it there, and take it back and wash it and put it back in his pocket, and all that he wanted was a helping of a bowl of soup. That's how things happen. And this is because real economy was unrelated to the fantastic vision of an artificial economy. I was requested to chair a group called the Central Listing Authority of the SEBI. Government of India asked me. I went into it and I found the whole thing was such a fraud that Government of India couldn't stand me. They said, "You don't say it too loud because internationally our reputation will be mud." I said, "It's already mud. You don't have to announce it." And somebody, Amit Mitra, was now the finance minister in West Bengal. He was one of my members. A number of very, very eminent people were with me. There's one gentleman who was that who has the prime database. Who was that? No, not Amit. Amit Verma was one of our members of that Central Listing Authority. Was this thing I wanted to bifurcate the IPO from the secondary market supervision, because of course I don't want to say all this because you are looking at the financial market for growth and things like that. It is certainly honest means of making money. But what you must understand is, if you take the $75 trillion of the global GDP, what are the components of it? What is the share of the transportation industry, pharmaceutical industry, of entertainment sector? You take away those things and you reduce it to 2.5 of our nation's GDP. Then you find out which sector has an imbalance. What is the components of it, and which is the area which is likely to grow, which is not. This is something which is to reduce it to. And there's a very interesting story. It's, I think, O. Henry's story. The story is called One Higher Up. There are three robbers. One of the names is very interesting because it will repeat itself later. His name was A.L. Fredericks. You please remember that name, A.L. Fredericks. Yeah, and the three of them robbed a bank. And one of them said, before we escaped in the morning, we will have to spend the night somewhere. He had already got a pack of cards marked in one of the shops and said in the night we will play cards together. And they had distributed the booty, a huge amount of money amongst the three of them. And he suggested they play cards in the night. And he had marked the cards. In the previous day, he thought he was one higher up. So the story is called One Higher Up. And then he robbed the other two fellows of the money and took it away. And he's a card sharper, and he won the money and took it away. After 10 years, one of the fellows who had lost the money called on him and said, "How are you doing?" He said he had taken away out of the three the one fellow robbed them in the cards game, the other fellow robbed him, and he went away. Ultimately, the man who had collected this illegal money said he had invested in a very safe thing, and he had purchased land in the New York East Extension. And they found that New York East Extension was the sea. And when he was taken to court, they said he could deny the allegations, but not the alligators. They were all full of alligators in the water. Then ultimately, he found the man who had sold the bonds, the land there, was Alfred Ricks. A.L. Fredericks had changed his name to Alfred Ricks. And this kind of Alfred Ricks are all over in this country. And whenever you see the names, the uncle floats a company that goes bust, and the nephew takes over, and in the corporate market, this is the kind of promoters that you have. And of course, I don't want to say anything more about it because I was chair of the Central Listing Authority, the SEBI, and there are some very eminent people. Mr. Patil was there. They're all very eminent people in the experts in the stock market. Ladies and gentlemen, the point I wish to say is, he spoke of the Artha Sukta. Arthasya moolam sukha, sukhasya moolam artha, arthasya moolam dharma, dharmasya moolam vinaya, vinayasya moolam ruddhobhiseva. Unless you serve the elderly, the wise and the good and the fine people like Dr. Omkar, there's no purity. More than Artha Vruddhi, you must have Artha Shaucha. The money that you have has the pedigree of integrity and honesty. And short-lived gains may not endure. I think that's the lesson that ultimately we see. I've seen I know some of the richest people in this country. I have known them personally. None of them is happy. And I don't know why possession of wealth and unhappiness go together. And something or the other is rankling their minds, rankling these things. And the finest pillow to sleep upon is an innocent life. And this is something which Mr. Mohan is trying to guide people, educate them, tell them financial literacy, particularly for Indian people. I know people who should not be allowed inside a respectable household. They have billions of rupees, thousands of crores of rupees amassed in all kinds of ways. And I know in those days in the 60s, used to be some clients who I used to defend them in civil suits where they were unable to pay money. Now they come and invite me for functions, come with starch uniforms, with gold chains. You don't tie up buffaloes with that kind of chain. And that's the kind of chain in gold they have. And this is the kind of hypocrisy that we see in the distribution of wealth in this country. The honest and the wicked is not the occasion to say pessimistic things about things, but let us see the good side of it. There are people who have managed, in fact, Warren Buffett handling of his wealth in the share market is shaped by one of his advisors who is a Jain, who is an Indian. He is the chief financial advisor to him. And they have built great wealth. Here, I think my prayerful wish is that Mr. Mohan and his wealth wealth Vruddhi will prosper and provide comfort and sense of well-being to his constituents. Those who invest money with him must feel a sense of comfort and sense of security that their wealth and their well-being in good hands. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very happy to be with you, and I wish I had the money to invest with him and get financial moksha. But at the age of 90, I'm looking up to some other moksha. Thank you very much for your patience and courtesy. I wish Mohan and Vruddhi all success in a dharmic way. Each of the constituents may become millionaires through proper wise investment of money, and he knows the secret of protecting, and there are a number of technologies which can provide against sudden downturns of economy. You see, economic behavior is so unpredictable that sudden downturns of economy you can't rely on. You must hedge this thing. Investment must be in gold, investment in commodities, investment in shares, investment in so many things. You diversify so many things so that something which goes down somewhere is compensated by something which goes up elsewhere. And that financial experts know how to manage that. And instead of mismanaging our own funds, let us entrust it to people who can manage it much better. Thank you very much.